Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Those are um, uh, ways to make commissions, ways to make short-term capital to increase your wealth, right? And to make money for living.
Hmm.
We have a short sales. Is you believe is coming. Uh, we have wholesaling for real estate agents that can do. Um, we also have what about owner finance? You know, in these
Hmm.
times where before you have so many loans with low interest rates, and now interest rates are increasing. Uh, I see the Fed. I don't see an end on when it's going to be increasing. They haven't said that they are going to stop increasing it. So that's a wild card. What do you think about that situation when you have people wanting to sell houses and then but they have a mortgage which a lower interest rate and they want to sell the house and the buyer is going to buy the house and then but they have to buy the house with a higher interest rate but the house had a low interest rate so what do you think about those possibilities of owner finance and a real estate agent working in owner finance?
I think that's I think that's awesome, and I'm pretty sure you could tell me better than I would know. But I'm pretty sure they don't cover that in real estate agent school, right? They don't cover much about owner finance. Maybe a little bit because I know there's a TREC seller financing addendum, but they don't. It doesn't seem like most agents that I've worked with in the past really understand the huge opportunity that's there, right? And that seller financing uh, can increase the potential price that that an investor would pay, particularly if it's a really nice interest rate. Now, how does it work? Well, we're talking really about what I call, what's commonly called in the business a subject to deal, right? So, someone, if they want to leave that mortgage in place, then they would deed the property over to an investor and then leave the financing in place, leave the lien in place of the underlying lender of the current owner, and then the payments would then start to be made by the investor that the owner deeded the property to. So I think I would need like a big a board with some so to draw some pictures to probably make that a little bit clearer. But suffice it to say, agents who want to increase their education and their knowledge in that investors would love for them to bring subject to opportunities with wraparound deed of trust and promissory notes. And it's a really big topic that we're not going to have time to cover, in all of its glory and all of its detail here today. But it's certainly, I'm glad that it's come up because it's something that a lot of investors are very interested in, and some investors specialize in that. But I think a lot of agents, they have probably many times they see an invest a perfect subject to opportunity right in front of them, and they don't recognize it. They don't they don't see because they don't know what the components of a an opportunity would be. Essentially, what somebody needs who is a seller who would be open potentially to a owner finance or I should say a subject to deal is they can't make the payments anymore, uh, or they're struggling to make the payments. And it would be fine for them to deed their property to somebody else as long as that somebody else would also make the payments. So the debt relief, the payment relief is what a lot of people are seeking. And in my world, I don't want a whole lot of repairs to have to be done by an investor, but maybe some. The last one we did, we put some flooring in, and it cost a few $1,000s. But then we wrapped the deed of trust and promissory note to a credit challenged buyer who gave like 10 grand down. So the seller deeded the property to a trust that that one of my companies was the beneficiary of that trust, and then the trust owner financed the property to that credit challenged buyer, and essentially we put 6 or 7 grand in the bank right up front. And before it was all done, I think we profited like $41,000 or something like that. So an agent who understands that and who is willing to work with investors can absolutely increase their deal volume, you know, and earn money from it, you know, and again, maybe they want to become an investor themselves and work subject to deals themselves. They need, you know, they need some education, of course, you know, but that's another possibility. Short sales, subject tos, seller financing, another seller financing option, of course, particularly if it's a little bit of a lower valued property. I've seen this happen a lot where somebody will come in and they will just pay cash. Okay. They, you know, now where do you get the cash? That's a whole other conversation, but believe me, there's plenty of money in the world. Trust me. Uh, so if somebody pays cash for a low valued property, fixes it up, and then sells it for two, three, 4 times what they paid for it, um, then they can. That's another great way to do things. Now, I avoided doing that for the longest time because I didn't want to tie up my money, right? If I'm paying cash, well, there goes a bunch of my cash for 30 years if it's a 30-year fixed note, right, that I offer to somebody. But then I heard about this concept of collateralizing your note, where you can then, after that, you can take your note and deed of trust to certain lenders who will accept that as collateral and loan you back maybe 80% or something, right? And so I buy a house, let's say, I don't know, let's say I buy it for 30 grand, put 10 grand into it to, you know, or 15 maybe to fix it up. Then I turn around and sell it for 90, 100. I'm just picking numbers out of the air here, you know. Uh, and then I can go and take my note and let's say, what would the note be? I don't know. Let's say the note is for, yeah, I mean, how much down payment did they pay, right? Let's say they did, let's just say they gave me a down payment of 10,000. And see, that's the thing that people don't realize either is that you can get a big down payment from some credit challenged buyers. Just because they've got challenges with their credit does not mean that they don't have cash. A lot of the time they have a significant amount of cash. And a lot of the time too, they're willing to take a house that's not perfect either and maybe do put some sweat equity into it, right? Do some fix up on it themselves after they buy it, you know. So you don't have to put all of the lipstick onto the pig before you sell it. So shall we say, you know, so anyway, I could go even deeper into that conversation, but suffice to say that yeah, seller financing and owner financing is an awesome. That's the greatest thing since sliced bread, as they say. You know, it's that's a wonderful opportunity, but you got to be able to see it. You got to study it. You know, got to think it through, and then you can uh, develop it and turn it, you know, and meet investors. I encourage agents to come to as many real estate investor networking meetings as they can, you know. And yes, of course, DFW REI Club is the best. But there are lots of them in Dallas Fort Worth area. You can't turn around without bumping into some real estate investment, you know, networking club. It's amazing. Now that's not true for all areas, but in Dallas Fort Worth, there's a bunch of them, you know, which is great for people who want to learn. You know, I mean, literally every night of the week, you know, you can go somewhere and meet a group of investors and agents and start developing your skills and gaining that additional education that you need.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Real estate agents want to learn. You know, going to the investment clubs is a great way to learn and a great way to have relationship with investors and being able to learn from the investors, from learning from the investors that are active. doing business, doing deals. There is a lot of expertise. There are a lot of people that like to give their knowledge to new investors. They feel proud of what they say or what they talk. They want to tell you information, and the new investor wants to hear all of this information, all these stories. It's very important to listen to all these stories, and it's so nice to learn from people and just learning from them, and why is that important about real estate agents being closer to real estate investors.
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to learn. And something else too. When you go to some of these meetings or you talk to somebody who says they're an investor, if I'm an agent, I don't, or if I'm anybody, quite frankly, I don't want to waste my time. But in the beginning, it may be difficult to know, but you want to work with serious investors primarily. And, everybody that says they're an investor is not necessarily a serious investor. So they can run you all over town looking at houses, etc., and never buy one. And so if you're only looking to get paid, via a commission, you may never get paid, by those people. And I think sometimes in a lot of circles where real estate agents are, they have no desire to work with investors because they have had a bad experience or they have a friend who had a bad experience with working with a wannabe investor. And there's certain questions that you can ask, even if you're just learning yourself as an agent. There's certain questions you can ask an investor um, about, to kind of qualify them and size them up as to whether or not they really are serious or experienced or whatever. I mean, and it's pretty simple. I don't need to go through all of that. I mean, ask them, how long have they been an investor? You know, you know, uh, where do they get their funding? Do they pay cash? Do they use hard money? Do they have to get a loan? What's their MO? And the more you talk to somebody and just ask them very simple questions. I mean, do you already have a portfolio of rentals? Oh, okay. How many? I, it's pretty simple to. It's not rocket science to kind of figure out whether somebody's serious, and it doesn't mean that if somebody's brand new that you shun them and won't work with them at all. But again, you don't want to waste your time, right? And so I know agents because I've had this, had this happen before. A lot of agents, can set you up on some kind of automatic email feed, where any properties that come on the MLS, that meet that investor's criteria, you get an automatic email, right? And this is not too difficult to set up some sort of an automatic search like that. But, and that's fine. Full disclosure, I've never bought a property that came through one of those automatic emails, and I've had plenty of them over the years. I mean, I look at them, but the challenge is that on the MLS you have, lots of other people competing for those properties, because the MLS is probably the number one way that people know to know about to go out and look for properties, right? But yeah, what you want is those pocket listings, though, right? And a good agent that knows how to recognize opportunities and has developed relationships with investors when they see or they encounter a seller who's truly motivated and their house or the seller themselves or some combination of the house and the seller are truly motivated to sell at a discount or where an investor could help them by working a short sale or working a subject to deal, then that person can quickly give you a pocket listing. And if you're an investor who's ready to turn and burn on that really quickly, then you can do some really good business. But again, there's a lot of implied stuff in what I just said. You've developed that relationship, you've had some detailed conversations. As an agent, you're dealing with somebody who's going to move quickly and they know what they're doing. And the agent, I should say the investor too, better value that relationship as well. Because if somebody brings you a good opportunity and you sit on it and you don't move quickly, or you're not ready to close, or you're not well funded, and the deal goes south, you think that agent is going to bring you another wonderful opportunity? Well, Maybe, but it may be a while because you didn't perform. But let me tell you, if you perform as an investor, or for that matter, as an agent too, if you are bringing value, again, you're bringing value to, to the other person in a relationship, they're going to love it and they're going to treat you like gold, or at least you would think they would. I certainly will treat you like gold. If you bring me a deal, oh man, I'm all over that. I'm just, yes, sir. No, sir. What can I do for you, sir? Can I shine your shoes? Let's go to lunch. It's on me, So, anyway.